Welcome to the Sprinkles of Spirit podcast. I'm Lisa, and I am your host. With a lifelong passion for self-discovery, personal growth, and spirituality, I have realized the ability to transform our lives is a timeless gift that lies within each of us, waiting to be awakened. Join me in this space every Thursday as I share with you all of the powerful practices and tools that have helped me elevate my mind, body, and spirit, as I know they will do the same for you. Together, we'll unleash your potential through self-love, self-acceptance, and faith, empowering you to live an inspired life that radiates with authenticity, purpose, and unwavering joy. I am so grateful you are here. Remember, you are exactly where you are supposed to be, and you are loved beyond measure. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy Thursday. So let's go ahead right away and dive in and breathe together. So if you will, put down all of the things and let's get quiet for a second and take one cycle of breath together. Go ahead and close your eyes and take a deep inhale through your nose, filling up all the way to the shoulders and the chest. And allow your exhale to come gently out of the mouth as you soften your shoulders. Relax the face and allow yourself to be still. Breathing in through the nose. Out of the nose. And slowly open your eyes. Thank you. It's a quiet Sunday morning, as I'm here and was given a little bit of time to sit and talk. And it's been an interesting beginning of the year for me. I want to be transparent. A lot of already kind of up and down energy, very transformative, had a few losses within my family. And it has me thinking, about the cycle of death and rebirth. And not to get too heavy here, but we are in the season of winter. And I've been thinking about, when you think of death, right? Most people fear it. Most people are extremely uncomfortable with the idea. Most people, I would say, view it as an end all be all, right? But those of you who are with me, I'm sure you're a little more open-minded about, is death final or not? That question, what does death mean to you? But what I've been thinking about is from the time we're born, and then to our birth date, right? And then we get to our death date. In between that, we experience many cycles of death and rebirth. And if it wasn't for those cycles, for me at least, there's no growth, And what do I mean by that? I mean, when you look back, we can use death as a metaphor of the end of one way in your life, or the end of something, or the element of fire in your life, right? The burning away of what no longer is working, the transformation, the change, the move from one place to a next, or maybe to one job to another, or the ending of a relationship, beginning of another. It's like life is such a cycle, right? Like even thinking of a child, a baby is born. Excuse me. A baby is born and they're so pure. They're just pure light, filled with love, no judgment. They love and accept everything, and they're exploring and discovering, and so beautiful, right? And then we begin to change and transform, and we grow, right, into a toddler, and then that cycle transforms and changes, and it's another like death and rebirth into your teenage years. And think of all of the transformation that happens in the teenage years. Oh my goodness. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Wow, right? Especially us women. Your bodies transform. One form of it is ending and another is forming, it's being birthed. And we're constantly going through these cycles of death and rebirth in our life, the ending of let's say high school, and then the beginning of college, and then the ending of college and the beginning of your adult life. And it's kind of a constant death and rebirth and death and rebirth. And maybe, those of you who are open to personal growth, maybe you've even experienced the shedding of a skin of your ego identity, right? Of realizing I'm so much more than all of these labels I've placed on myself. That's a constant shedding. And I'm still constantly transforming. I know when I look back, I'm not the same person, woman I was even just a few years ago. And I love that life gives us these portals, if you will, or chapters, of going through another cycle of death and rebirth and death and rebirth and death and rebirth. And yes, some of those deaths maybe were dark times, and yes, it includes losing physically loved ones. But, I was reading this morning a little bit about what exactly, A Course in Miracles talks about when it comes to death, and it speaks of it as this, it's a mad idea, that life is just simply this physical birth and then life, and then, transforming to dust and it's over. It's like, that's such a tiny mad idea, that we hold on to. And of course, what would that bring? But nothing but heartache and despair and sadness and doom, the grimness, right? And the awareness that cannot coexist, with God, and, it speaks about death as a transformation and understanding, the reality, of death as someone looks at it as an end all be all. That belief is firmly rooted in the belief that God is a body, and then if God created just bodies, simply bodies, death would indeed be real, and God would not be a loving God, right? Yeah. Let me read to you a little bit what I read this morning. It says, "And the last to be overcome will be death. Of course, without the idea of death, there is no world. All dreams will end with this one. This is salvation's final goal, the end of all illusions." What is salvation? It's peace. "And in death are all illusions born. What can be born of death and still have life? And what it's teaching is that we are eternal. God is eternal. So if God is eternal, therefore in him and all created things. And when I say him, I mean force, source, energy of love. God is eternal. Therefore, all things created must be eternal. Do you not see that otherwise he has an opposite, and fear would be as real as love? I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about like death and rebirth and death and rebirth. And the epiphany that I've had is that we're constantly experiencing the cycle of death and rebirth in our lives, and that it's actually something to be welcomed, because without the cycle of a death in your life, and view it as not just losing someone, view it as the end of an old way of being, the end of old negative thought patterns, maybe the end of relationships that do not serve you, the end of a career that is not in alignment with what you are meant to serve in this life, or the death of a relationship that is not for your highest good and has reached its maximum capacity for growth. These cycles of death essentially are catalysts for your growth. Without them, we don't grow, we don't expand, we don't transform, we don't move forward in your life and have the capability and the opportunity to go higher, than our old version, right? I know I always want to be growing and learning and transforming and going higher. I hope, in this lifetime, I get to be the best and highest expression of myself, whatever that is going to be, and whatever, what does that require? It requires my first willingness, to be vulnerable and to do shadow work and to dive deep and to look at the darkness and the parts about myself that I'm not crazy about, and where I'm not being authentic, or where I'm holding back, or what old fear I'm holding on to. I'm constantly battling the energy of fear. And it takes that vulnerability to do the work, as a teacher, as a spiritual coach, I certainly do the work, and if you are a teacher out there tuning in, we know that is the most important thing we can possibly do before you step into the role of any kind of mentor, teacher, or coach. It requires that we do this deep work on ourselves first. We have to come from a place of going through it, going through the dark to get to the light, and then to be able to share and guide others to realizing, death and rebirth is a beautiful thing. And, circling back to, losing a loved one, let's say, maybe some of you have also gone through that recently. I have such a different view of it. I really do see it as a transition, because I know this physical body is not just the end all be all. It's not just you're burned to dust and that's it. I know without a shadow of a doubt, I will see and be with my loved ones on another level, on the other side, whether you call it heaven or, in the higher dimension, or, whatever label we give it. I do believe our energy lives on, and if you've ever lost a loved one, I know that you can feel them around you. You get signs like this is real. The energy within you, you have a heart beating that's energetic. When you walk into a room, people feel you, and that pureness, and I, I spoke about it, the diamond within our soul. That's where we're all connecting, that's what people feel within you, And it's a matter of going through these different cycles in your life of death and rebirth, and mining away the darkness around the diamond, so we can get to the bright light that's shining inside of all of us. And I think to get to there, right, we have to go through these portals of death and rebirth, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. reinventing ourselves, learning and growing and transforming. And if you're holding on tightly to your past or just an old stagnant way of being, I encourage you this week to take a look at that, get out your journal. And your journal prompt this week is, what cycle of death and rebirth have I gone through, have been the catalyst for my personal growth? And maybe it's one or two that pop up, maybe you can look back and go, oh my God, that was such a hard chapter of my life. I hated it. It was uncomfortable. It was painful. But if it didn't happen, right, it wouldn't have brought you to a higher place, a higher level, higher relationships, bigger opportunities, growth, expansion, learning, becoming more of who you really are meant to be. You like the highest expression of you. None of that can happen. It's like difficult times, of course, are going to happen, but they are the catalyst for growth. That's what life is all about. Life is not going to be just one big, great party. It would be nice, right? It would be nice every day to be a party, but circling back to the yin and yang, right? You got to have the balance. And I think that is death and rebirth. Death and rebirth. I don't know. Yeah. So thank you for listening to me kind of really share what's been going on in the energy around me. So journal that, what cycles of death and rebirth have you gone through? Which one have taught you the most? And maybe which one you're still stuck on or still holding on to, what death are you not willing to, what are you not willing to lay to rest? Right? What are you not willing to lay to rest that is not serving you in your life anymore? And this could be, like I said, a thought pattern, a way of being, bad habits, addictions, unhealthy relationships, dysfunctional thought patterns about yourself, Yeah. Something to really journal about, take the time to get quiet with yourself and really give it some time, Okay. I did pick a few cards. I did pick a Sprinkles of Spirit card, and your angel message says this week, every thought is a prayer. Every thought I have carries a frequency of love or fear. What I think, I create. And we know this. I've talked about this. Every single thought you have has a frequency. So write that down. What thoughts am I carrying around? Those thoughts carry a frequency, and it really is rooted in love or fear. Something to take note of. Where are you fearful in your life? And remember, your external reality is a reflection of these thoughts. Your external reality is a reflection of your internal thoughts. So write that down too. Okay, and then I did pick a Power of Surrender card by Judith Orloff. And, when I pick a card, I always say, okay, what do we need to surrender this week? And the card that popped out was Surrender to Effortlessness. I love this card, and it's a beautiful, she's kind of hanging from a rope and kind of laying back and just like effortlessness, like swinging. And it says, stop pushing so hard. The art of living means going with the flow instead of trying to force the river. And I love this card, and it's such a good reminder that it's important to go with the flow of your life, like whatever is happening. If there is a death and rebirth happening, like go with the river of your life, flowing with it. Nothing that is for you will ever have to be forced, manipulated or rushed. When we surrender to the flow of what's happening in your life. Like things have a way of just coming into perfect alignment, and synchronicities will happen, and you will come into alignment with that right next opportunity, the right next friend, the right next partner, the right next road that you're meant to walk on, the right next river you're meant to flow down, and life is such a beautiful journey, the right next cycle that you're meant to embark on, the right next birth that you're about to experience in your life, the right next flower that's going to bloom. It's just, we have to like move through life with this effortlessness, So that's another really good journal prompt too, is what are you resisting? Because whatever you resist persists. If you can take your hands, kind of off the wheel and just trust that you're doing all that you can do, really sit tight. God has you in the palm of his hands. The universe knows everything. Nothing's a secret. You're held in love and support always. Have faith in that and trust the flow. Trust the flow. Yeah, that's the message I'm getting. Yeah. So thank you always for joining me, for tuning in, once a week to hear a message that I hope lifts you up and raises your vibration and kind of gets you to open up and maybe explore and maybe, journal about a question you've never even asked yourself, right? It's all important growth that everybody has the capability of experiencing. And the fact that you're willing and you click play, I'm so grateful to you for that. So thank you. Stay with me this year in 2024, more to come. Yes. My interviews are getting scheduled. So I'm excited to introduce to you some beautiful people too. So until next time, have a beautiful week. Namaste.